No, I agree with you. And one of the big issues that I have is this whole concept or this whole communication avenue where comedians talk about writing. And the second they do that, they exclude most of what it takes to get laughs on stage. It indirectly says, okay, well, it's all about what you formulate on paper, like pulling it out of your rear end and making it work. And there's so much more to it than that. That's why I have a tendency to use the term comedy material development, is because that's different than trying to write something. Because if you try to write something, that's about what people are going to read. And again, audiences don't read your stuff. They experience you in 3 dimensions, not 1 dimension.
Yeah, and you know what's amazing about a couple quick points on that. First of all, I used to be like everybody else. I kind of laugh when the comedian is known for having that little notebook and pen everywhere they go in case they come up with a great idea. Do you know, I have not used, let me think now. It's been well over a year, probably a year and a half, going on 2 years that I was first introduced to your course in Comedy Evaluator Pro. I haven't carried a notebook since. Do not use a notebook whatsoever as far as, again, when I go to the paper or the computer, it's strictly for editing. What I'd rather do, if anything, is carry around a recorder, an audio recorder, because if I come up with something, walking down the street or something, I want to say it in the way I have it in my mind, because if you don't say it the way you have it in your mind, it's not going to come out right when you put it on paper. And then the other point is what we end up doing is we end up making it more wordy, because on the paper it doesn't sound right. Like, even though you had it in your mind a certain way, you start writing it and you're like, well, no, I need to make this, you go back to English class and you start making it more grammatically correct, and you start adding words. By the time you're done writing it down, it's nowhere near how you would have said it or how you said it in your mind that you thought it was funny to begin with. You see what I mean? So
absolutely.
I think not only do you have to get off the paper, I think the paper actually holds you back and actually limits you and actually increases the amount of time that it takes to develop material when you're trying to do things quicker, because I just think that you're going to end up getting rid of most of those words eventually anyhow, and you're going to say it, because let's face it, we don't talk. We don't even talk the way you would normally write things down or the way things should be written down, and it's just, and that's what makes us all individually funny, is like the way we talk or the way we say things that may not be, grammatically correct or may not be, the same as the written word. So you can't. I've scrapped it all together, to be honest, and it was the best. It was the most freeing thing that I could have done. That it's really one of, and so that's the next piece that ties into the advice thing. That's really one of the other biggest pieces of advice I give to. And new comedians look at me strange when I say that, but I'm like, as soon as you can, get off the paper.
Oh, dude, I'm just telling you, people that have comedy talent, they had it before. They had it before they ever hit the stage. That's one of the reasons why they hit the stage, is to expand upon their comedy talent that they had. And the comedy mechanics that people use in everyday conversation absolutely apply on stage. The problem is they get stuck in this, well, I can't really apply that. What I need to do is write stupid jokes. And the second they do that, it's all phony. Audiences get it. They don't make any progress. And next thing you know, they're out of the game.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, when you talk about, like, the natural voice and your natural ability to be funny, the thing is when you go to the paper, again, it starts limiting you and starts holding you back from that natural voice. And what I mean by that is, like, there's certain things I do, whether it's a look or whether it's a word, that would never be considered a punchline. If you gave it to, like, an industry person or one of these comedy coaches or whatever, they'd look at that and be like, that's never going to work. That's never funny. But it's the way I say it, So I guess what I'm saying is, even myself, when I go to the paper, I look at things and I'm like, wow, that's not going to be funny. Like, why? So I start playing around, and this is what I used to do when I was on paper too much, is I play around with the words and try to make it funnier, not realizing that, it was funny originally if I just would have said it the way I normally would say it. And if the punchline is some word that you never thought would be funny. That's just the way, that's the way you naturally are funny. I say this all the time. Like, one of my favorite comics is like Brian Regan, and he has, and so many of the top comics have that, delivery where, I mean, I'm sure if you wrote, I know if you wrote down a lot of his bits, you'd be like, there's no way that's funny. No way.
Oh, absolutely.
But you watch him and the delivery and the faces he gives and the goofiness, and it all comes to, then it's freaking hilarious. It's not just funny. It's off the charts hilarious, and on paper you'd be like, if you took that to any of these comedy coaches or they'd be like, no, you got to rework this whole, and that's where the problem is. So you're reworking the genius out of it. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing. Brian Regan and Jim Gaffigan, who have two diametrically opposed styles, are two of the people that I have actually transcribed short bits of theirs. And you read their stuff and you're like, okay, whatever. And then you watch it and it's like, oh my God.
But this is what you're saying, Steve. This is what you're saying, though. Now, I just want to tell, if you transcribe that, and I'm not trying to bash anyone, but if you transcribe that and submitted it as your own material in any of these traditional comedy courses or coaches or people that write these books, and again, I'm not trying to bash anyone, but if you went into one of their classes with that transcribed, knowing that it's a Brian Regan bit that kills, and just said it was your own, how many of them would totally have you rework that and say it's crap?